Good morning. So we are going to actually have a little pre-gong hymn rehearsal this morning. We have a couple of unfamiliar hymns, and I thought we would just run through them a little bit so that when we arrive to them in the service, you can enjoy the message of the hymns and not worry so much about what's happening, what's going on with this hymn. This is new, I don't understand it. So, the first is in the gray hymnal, and it is hymn number 194. 194. Faith is a Forest. This is a Chinese melody, and it sounds like it. It's a very popular Chinese melody, and you may even have heard it before, but not with these new Unitarian English words. Linda, would you play the melody in octaves for us? Thank you. So let's sing the first verse words together just to learn this new melody. Ready and go. Faith is a forest in which doubts play and hide. Insight can hear the still small voice deep inside. Web of life, may this thread I weave, strength and commitment to all I believe. Vision be my guide as I seek my way. Lead me into this tender day. Speak through me in all I do and say. Very good job. All right. The other hymn is in the turquoise hymnal. I was told very clearly by a member of the hymn committee, this is not teal. Okay, it's turquoise. You can call it whatever you want. All right. So this is hymn number 1015, 1015. And it's called I Know I Can, and it's written in the style of African American gospel, and it's very singable, but I think it's a good idea to run through it once. All right. 1015, 1015, the time I usually wake up. That was just a joke, by the way. It's not true at all. Okay, Linda, would you play the melody of this for us? Let's try it. Though days be dark with storms and burdens weigh my heart, though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. Yes, yes, you can do that echoing if you want. And don't feel too tied to the page. If you want to improvise and have fun with that, that would be perfectly stylistically acceptable. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to a good worship service.
Well, I can't remember the name of that song, but the tune certainly rings a bell. So with that musical introduction, it's our way of saying good morning and welcome to another Sunday here at First Unitarian Society, where independent thinkers gather in a safe, nurturing, and musical environment to explore issues of social, spiritual, and ethical significance as we try to make a difference in this world. I'm Steve Goldberg, a proud, charming member of this congregation, and I want all of you to know I voted. And I'll vote again on Tuesday. But I also want you to know that if this is your first time at First Unitarian Society, I think you'll find it's a special place. And we offer a special welcome to you, and we also invite you to join us in our fellowship hour right after the service. And speaking of the service, if you haven't already done so, this is a perfect time to silence those pesky electronic devices that you will not need for the next hour, because in the next hour, you're going to be enjoying our service, which I know will touch your heart, stir your spirit, and trigger one or two new thoughts. We're about to join in a moment of centering silence so we can be present with each other this morning. And after that, we'll rise for our ingathering hymn. So I invite you to join right now in a moment of centering silence. We're glad you're here.
Please rise in body or spirit. We'll sing hymn number 194. Faith is a forest in which clouds play and hide. Insight can hear the still small voice deep inside. Web of life, may this thread I weave. Strength in commitment to all I believe. Vision be my guide as I seek my way. Lead me into this tender day. Speak through me in all I do and say. Seeds of both meek and strong are scattered in air. Dignity shines undimmed by bigotry's glare. Web of life, may this thread I weave. Help me bear witness to all I believe. Justice be my guide as I seek my way. Lead me into this tender day. Speak through me in all I do and say. Fortune and famine ride the swift winds of chance. Sorrow and pleasure seem united in dance. Web of life, may this thread I weave. Mingle compassion with all I believe. Mercy be my guide as I seek my way. Lead me into this tender day. Speak through me in all I do and say.
Please remain up for our opening words and lighting of the chalice. As chill winds blast the autumn leaves from the trees, we gather with new purpose.
In each other's company, we find warmth against the approach of winter's cold.
We look to the bounty of harvest to sustain us while the earth sleeps, and we attend again to the wider circles of relationship, reminded of the connections on which we depend.
In each face, some softening with age, some blooming into maturity, we see the human story revealed, the journey we each walk from mystery to mystery. And now, Mark Ward's words continue in our lighting of the chalice, printed in your order of service, as together we say, there is cause for gratitude for the love we share, even if imperfect, and not always fully realized. Every day of our journeys, we are given new opportunities to accept and to give love. I invite you now to turn to each other and offer a warm greeting.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Well, hello. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well. How are you? Good morning.
Nothing new. Okay.
Good morning.
Hi, Susan.
Good morning. Good morning. Glad that you're here. Good morning.
Hi, Cece.
Good morning, Gabe. Good morning. Good morning. So we invite anyone who'd like to come up and join us. Please come forward for a story we'll share together.
Good morning.
And I'll also be up there. Hello, hello. There's still room, plenty of room up here. Hello.
There's space here. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
This morning, as we explore the many ways that we deal with change in life and find strength, we'll share a story called A Happy Hat by Cecil Kim. And there will also be images and other things that we can pay attention to. I am a hat. I am worn out here and there. I have a few holes and even a few weeds sticking out, but I'm still very much a hat. I'm a very happy hat, and I have lots of stories to tell. A long time ago, the most popular hat maker in the city made me a shiny black silk hat with peacock feathers. Lots of fashionable gentlemen wanted a hat like me. Ooh, very fashionable, yes. My first owner was a new groom with many dreams. It fit wonderfully on his head. His wedding was held on a dazzling spring day, and the bride wore a beautiful white dress. The air was filled with the sounds of guests clapping and laughing, and every minute of that day was full of hope and good wishes, like a flower starting to blossom. I felt glad and content, filled with hope. I felt special. After some time, I went to a second-hand store. I wondered if I was too old. I wondered if I was not interesting anymore. I wondered if I was of use to anyone. But I am a hat, a little worn with a hole or two, but still, I am a hat, a special hat. My next owner was a magician. He pulled pigeons from me, making roses bloom and snowflakes fall. Children kept their bright eyes focused on me, holding their breath. Dogs sniffed the air for clues. Parents winked knowingly. I felt lucky and alive, full of curiosity. I felt wonderful. Time went on, and I was sold to a street musician. I was sat upside down on the cold pavement. People threw coins into me as the musician played violin. Cats meowed, children danced and giggled all around me. The coins I held fed the musician's hungry family. I felt helpful and wonderful, filled with generosity. I felt joyful.
And then one day, woof, woof, a stray dog grabbed me and took off running. I wondered where he was taking me. I wondered what would happen next. I wondered if I would be lost forever. That is how I ended up in these woods. I was alone in the woods. I wondered what I would do next. I wondered when I would become someone's hat again. But whenever I felt lonely or confused, I remembered, when the rain and wind pass, I might see a rainbow. And when the night is over, I will see the sun rise again. And when winter is over, spring will arrive. Whoosh! I heard the flapping of wings. Someone, something was approaching. A mother bird settled on my brim. All day long, she brought grass and soil and cotton in her mouth to build a nest inside of me. Her devotion, her warmth, her love, I felt like a treasure filled with happiness. I felt valuable. Now I am waiting. I'm waiting for my next owner. Will it be 1, 2, or 3 baby birds? Their mother's love overflows in me. I am filled with wonder, generosity, and courage. I am the happiest hat in the world. And then on the next page, there's a space where we get to answer some questions in bubbles. So this says, the hat was left in the woods. What is the hat thinking? Yeah.
What will be its next owner?
What will be its next owner? That's a good thought.
Yeah.
Any other things that the hat might be thinking? Well, how about this question? What are the magician and street musician thinking? Yeah. I love this hat. It's very valuable. Yeah.
Where is my hat?
Where is my hat?
It went away.
After the baby birds leave, who will become the happy hat's next owner? Any guess? Oh, you have a guess?
It could be like a boy tap dancer they could wear, but I don't think that they would like it because it's
A boy tap dancer.
Yeah, exactly.
Might want to wear it, but it might be kind of have holes in it and have some sticks and stuff in it.
It was used as a nest. It might be interesting to put on your head, right?
There are more things you can do with your grown-ups at home if you get to take this book home from the library. Okay? All right. Well, there are lots of ways to be a hat and lots of ways to be a human. So you enjoy the changes in your day and in your life, and we will sing you to class now with hymn number 112.
10-12.
1012.
Have fun. Bye.
Oops.
When I am frightened, will you reassure me? When I'm uncertain, will you hold my
Our reading today is attributed to the Hopi elders and is entitled Prophecy. You have been telling people that this is the 11th hour. Now you must go back and tell the people that this is the hour, and there are things to be considered. Where are you living? What are you doing? What are your relationships? Are you in right relation? Where is your water? Know your garden. It is time to speak your truth. Create your community. Be good to each other. And do not look outside yourself for your leader.
Then he clasped his hands together and smiled and said, "This could be a good time. There is a river flowing now very fast. It is so great and swift that there are those who will be afraid. They will try to hold on to the shore. They will feel they are being torn apart and will suffer greatly. No, the river has its destination. The elders say we must let go of the shore, push off into the middle of the river, keep our eyes open and our heads above the water. I say, see who is there with you and celebrate. At this time in history, we are to take nothing personally, least of all ourselves. For the moment that we do, our spiritual growth and journey come to a halt. The time of the one wolf is over. Gather yourselves. Banish the word struggle from your attitude and your vocabulary. All we do now must be done in a sacred manner and in celebration. We are the ones we've been waiting for. Here ends our reading.
The choir's anthem this morning is Hymn to Freedom, which was composed by Oscar Peterson, a famous jazz pianist. It was requested of him that he write an anthem for the civil rights movement. And it never became as popular as some other songs in that movement, but it is still of lasting value. The words were written by a friend of his, Harriet Hamilton, and they read, "When every heart joins every heart and together yearns for liberty, that's when we'll be free. When every hand joins every hand and together molds our destiny, that's when we'll be free. Any hour, any day, the time soon will come when all will live in dignity. That's when we'll be free. When everyone joins in our song and together sing in harmony, that's when we will be free."
Every heart
So we start a new theme this Sunday, and this theme for this month is resilience. And we understand resilience in a variety of ways. One of the definitions has to do with the power or ability to return to an original form or position after being compressed, bent, stretched, or, of course, to recover from illness or depression or anxiety. It is various words like buoyancy, flexibility, adaptability. It has been our tradition to explore the theme in a way that brings a more collaborative approach, and we are trying yet a different collaborative approach today, one that is often called a dialogue sermon. And we seek to make this a little more conversational in the actual delivery. It's always fairly conversational in the last months in how we prepare. That has not changed. But Karen and I explored some questions around resilience, and we chose some questions that in particular spoke to us or felt like they were powerful in our own thinking about resilience. So we will pose those questions to each other. But you are part of the conversation too, in that we invite you to think about your deepest answer as we offer some of our thoughts and continue that conversation after the service is done. So, in that spirit, we move to our first question. So, Karen, in your thinking about this topic, how resilient are you when it comes to anger?
Oh boy, anger. Well, as I was thinking about anger this week, I was having a hard time really admitting that I had any anger. Really, because when I was a kid and I was the youngest of three, anytime my sisters fought and were angry with each other, I would run and hide. It was not a feeling that I enjoyed then, and it's not a feeling I enjoy now. So I checked in with my wife to see if I have anger, and she said yes.
Oh, yes.
You do. I apparently am able to express it even.
It was a revelation, I'm sure.
A revelation. So, I mean, you know, to have this opportunity to explore anger has been helpful, because I also got to explore something called my Enneagram. So in the Enneagram, I am a 1, which is sometimes called the teacher or the activist, sometimes called the moralist or the perfectionist or the organizer. I use the term the reformer. And I, as a good librarian, I went to do my research and looked in my book called The Wisdom of the Enneagram, and it has a whole section on anger for the ones, such as myself. And it says, ironically, ones are not always aware of their anger.
Busted.
They seldom experience anger as anger because their superego generally prohibits them from being too emotional. To be angry is to be out of control, to be less than perfect. So ones often deny their anger through clenched teeth. I am not angry, I'm just trying to get it right. So yeah, they pegged me, and you all now know something new about me. It continues on to say, anger in itself is not a bad thing, which I knew and kind of agreed with, right? It is what arises naturally when there is something around us that we do not like or want in our lives. Anger, when fully experienced and not acted out or repressed or swallowed, is instantaneous and short-lived. When we allow our anger without resisting it, it usually arises like a wave and passes through us. Ones can grow enormously by learning to feel their anger without attempting to suppress it or justify it. Talking openly about their anger with significant others can be very healing for ones and a positive step in learning to process their resentments. So thank you, everyone. I was thinking more than, so okay, I have anger, and part of me feels like I'm angry all the time. I can only read the headlines practically because each one makes me angry, but I am trying to let it move through me and also fuel me for the work ahead. I was thinking back to a time in my life when anger was much more on the surface for me, and that was high school. I was mad about everything practically, whether it was the nuclear arms race and the military spending, or the heterosexism and the gender roles that I was seeing in my school, or the curriculum where I was getting only white perspectives on the world. After I read, I did get to read a short story by James Baldwin called Sonny's Blues, and that opened up a whole new world for me. And I realized, oh, if I want to learn about the African American experience, I have to ask for it. So I went into college saying, I'm taking that class and that class and that class, and ended up with an African American studies minor, because that anger in me fueled me towards the work that I needed to do to learn and grow. And so I think about anger fueling us as individuals, but fueling us as community, and how it can help make change in our lives and in our world. And I'm also really, based on this reading, interested in having it move through me and not get stuck in me, because that can kind of happen too, where it gets stuck in my body and my jaw gets tense and I'm all hunched over. And if I can let it move through me, I have the opportunity to have it help me change my world and our world.
Sounds very powerful.
So that's what I was thinking about anger. Now I have a question for you, Doug.
Yeah, I knew it was coming. Okay. I literally knew it was coming, of course.
So, how resilient are you when it comes to forgiveness?
I chose this one for a good reason. For me, the ongoing work around forgiving and asking for forgiveness has been an important part of both my personal life, but it really has been such an essential component of ministry. No one told me in theological school that pretty much everything that you do will tick someone off. And they will be happy to tell you. And so, I started in church when I was relatively young as a minister. And, I went in and I sort of just changed the order of service from top to bottom based on what I learned in seminary, the better way to do worship. And I was shocked that people were furious at me for making big changes. And so early on, it made me think about what to do with other people's anger. And some of the time, I didn't agree with what they were angry about, but I still needed to figure out a way to be in relationship with them. But many of the times, there were things for me to own in that. And so it was important for me to look for those places and to find ways to ask for forgiveness. So I got better at that. I'm not as bad when I mess up and I need to ask for forgiveness. What continues to be an interesting challenge for me is, especially as a minister, when the congregation disappoints or angers me. And you do. That's just part of what it means to be in relationship. Throughout all of this, I find that there is a sort of dynamic dance between disappointment, grace, and expectation. Because what I realized is that sort of the core of a lot of what ends up disappointing us with each other is the ways that our expectations have not been met. And so both for congregants and for myself, over and over again, I realized that I need to be more aware of what expectation I bring to life, to myself, to my relationships, to the congregation. And that I need over and over again to help the congregation be aware of the expectation they bring. And that often the powerful work is first for me to look honestly before I let myself self-righteously go into full-blown anger and disappointment, to wonder, did I ever have any right to expect that of that person or those people in the first place? Is it their business to make me happy or do what I want? And so that ongoing interplay of understanding what disappointment, what expectation are about, and how in all of that, a deep, abiding sense of grace, of forgiveness, of right relationship, of just sinking into what is really true can be a powerful invitation. John O'Donohue wrote, "When you forgive, some deeper divine generosity takes you over. When you cannot forgive, you are a prisoner of the hurt done to you." In terms of resilience, I became very aware that it is hard to find our real resilience while we are in that prison cell. If we remain deeply burdened by our lack of forgiveness, our resentments, our disappointments, we cannot be as resilient as when we are able to find ways to bring that back into right relationship. And so the final thing for me in terms of forgiveness is over and over again to find the ways to do the work and be accountable for bringing things back into relationship and as best as I can moving towards right relationship. It doesn't matter whether I intended to be hurtful or not, but to be accountable to the power that my choices make and to find ways that are authentic, to remain in relationship and seek forgiveness and find a more straightforward and honest way to really own my choices in life. And so I find that this ongoing work of forgiveness is essential to giving me the strength to face complexity. So that would be my answer to how forgiveness and resilience are doing their work in me. Our third question comes from some of what originally inspired us to do this theme in this time. What does having a resilient faith mean to you? We were aware when we planned our worship themes this summer that November contained a midterm election. And whatever happens in a few days, good, bad, indifferent, whatever we think, there will be much asked of us over the coming weeks and months. And that work has happened for a very long time. Certainly after the 2016 election, many of my fellow colleagues and I observed that our congregations have moved into a place of sort of a deep depression about the world as it exists. And so we can't really, I think, turn to the question of how are we resilient as a tradition of faith together and individually. And so I thought about what I believe in our faith tradition that helps us most powerfully to be resilient. And it inspired some of what I want to talk about in the next couple of weeks. I believe that over and over again in our diversity, when we come together over the weekends to do religious education and worship together, I believe that time calls us to both honor and realize the truth of our diversity, but it also asks us to identify, lean into, find strength in our unity. And so worship at its best both honors and celebrates that diversity, but always, again and again, it helps us find the strong places that call us into common ground. By its very nature, and by the very nature of religious education, it's meant to help us understand what binds us together. And so next week, I will explore how resilience and worship may work together more powerfully, what helps that happen. And then the week after that, I believe the other part that we do together is that we practice. We make spiritual practice out of things that help ground us more deeply in who we are together, and help us find the places of resilience that exist within us, and help us lean into the collaborative power and resilience that comes from our togetherness as well. And so the week after, I will explore the ways that practice and how we are together may be a path to resilience. So those are the two biggest things I'm aware of. What would you say in answer to that question, Karen?
I have a lot to echo from what you were saying. I often think of my resilient Unitarian Universalist faith as being practice, which is the practice for myself as an introvert, making sure I have enough self-time to do my art, to take my walks by the lake, to do my yoga and meditation and prayer. But then I also kind of need my time with community. And I spoke of this, or I wrote of this in the November newsletter article about worship being, for me, a time of the week that's like a downbeat to my week. It gives me a routine to remind me that all will be well, that I am not alone in this life, and that I have a community when I need to celebrate or when I need support. And those two things together are actually leading me towards something recently that I am calling trust. And that is this idea that I need to trust in myself, in my call, in this idea that wherever I am on my journey to my call, it's exactly where I need to be. Trusting other people, trusting you as we do this new weird thing, trusting the congregation to be open-minded and open-hearted as we explore in new ways, and trusting that which I can't even name, that's so much bigger than anything I can imagine, trusting the universe to remind me that all will be well. Because I will be held by a community of love. So those are the Unitarian Universalist resilient faith that I've been exploring lately.
Wonderful. So I wonder, as we get ready to move into the last part of our service, how is it with you? How are you doing in terms of the power of anger in your life, and how it either contributes to your sense of strength, or how it innervates you and takes you out of relationship? How are you doing in terms of forgiveness in your life and its ongoing power? And how is this place part of your resilience and your ability to bounce back in the midst of difficulty? We'll explore those ideas throughout this month. We also, every week, have the opportunity to think very deeply about relationship and resilience as we move into the time of the offering. The offering always invites us to be aware of the ways that we receive so many resources in our life, and what's going on in the world, and how our resource and the call of the world interact. And so as we receive this morning's offering, we have the opportunity to be especially generous in the community. Our 50/50 outreach offering recipient this week is Community Immigration Law Center. There's more about their important work in the order of service. May a spirit of generosity and love inspire our giving.
I'm
We give thanks this day for the beautiful music, for all the ways that you give to this community through your treasure, your time, your talents. I want to give a special thank you to those who helped make this collaborative worship possible today. On sound, we have David Brills. Our lay ministers today are Ann Smiley and John McNevna. Our greeter this morning was Claire Box. Our ushers this morning were Marty Hollis, Ann Ostrom, Liza Monroe, and Dick Goldberg. Our welcome and information table is being staffed by Karen Rose Gredler. And then the coffee ministry is being helped by Biss Nitschke and Blaze Thomas. There is one special announcement today, and that is that this Wednesday, after the election, there will be a post-election gathering that will happen here in this auditorium from 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. on Wednesday, November 7th. We will have candles, song, and reflection, and a time together in community. And speaking of community, I'm going to ask the cares of the congregation to come forward.
The cares of the congregation invite us to realize that we each bring with us every week deep joys and sorrows, some of which we are able to speak and some that just reside deeply in our heart, and that there is great power either way in holding time and space for that truth. And because we come together as a community, we can remind ourselves of the common call to care for each other, to love, to respond, but most of all, to remember. And so on this day that is part of the All Souls, it is a tradition in our congregation for us to share the names of those who have died in the last year. That remembering is another form of power and resilience. And so I invite Steve to read the names of friends and members who have left us in body but not in spirit.
Bill Wortman, Pete Dorner, Barbara Nodine, Karen Richardson, Mary Mickey Udall, Greg Erickson, Frank Springer, Bob Dott, Nancy Dott, Edwin Vidays, Paul Mattioni, Phil Carey, Beverly McElvey, June Spencer, the Reverend Max Gabler, Harriet Gorski, Lowell Hoken, Norma Denner, Larry Palmer, Elaine Naughton, and Kirsten Carlson.
Each of them remembered, each of them held in love, each of them alive in how their spirit lives in us. We also remember the other joys and sorrows present and here, spoken and held deeply. We remember that we are part of the web of life that makes us one with all humanity and the universe. We remember the power of all that we share, the miracle of life, and the hope that is embodied by how we care, remember, and love. So may it be. I invite us to rise in all of the ways we do as we do our closing hymn together, number 1015. I know I can go on.
I can go on. When song heals my soul and burdens make me strong, though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. My sister in my heart, my brother in my song, though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. And though the journey is long, the destination is near. Though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. So brothers, take my hand, and sisters, sing my song. When hope awaits at every turn, I know I can go on.
When you are in the midst of that storm, may you find that inner strength. And when you can't find your inner strength, may you turn to each other and find the resilience you need. We extinguish this lamp, but not the light of justice, not the fire of our commitment, not the warmth of our love. These remain in you until you come to this place again. May we return to our seats and take in one last gift of music.
shall wait.